All right, so you should make sure that you have this sheet right here, Vocab and Practice for Learning Target 4.1. It's going to be located on the green cabinet in the back. So make sure you've grabbed that. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to walk you through some of the vocab and stuff in the beginning here. And then we're going to maybe do one problem with you. And then we are going to let you practice the rest of them, right? So let's just start out with this. What is the vertex of a quadratic function? All right. Now we talked about that yesterday in some notes, and we kind of walked you through that a little bit. And you got to practice it just a little bit on your calculator. But I want to make this kind of formalized right here. So what is the vertex of a quadratic function, right? The vertex is the highest or lowest point of the parabola. Okay. It is where the graph changes direction. So if you think about it, if it's opening down like this one, that's going to be the vertex. If it's opening up like this one, that's going to be the vertex. All right? So the next thing I'm going to talk about is what are the solutions or zeros of a quadratic function. All right. Now, if you remember this from previous stuff in math courses, all right, the solutions or zeros are the x-intercepts. And like we're talking about, if you remember this from previous lessons, you'll remember that the x-intercepts are where y equals 0. So it's where y equals 0. So if we were to just kind of sketch one right on here, there's coordinate plane, and if we sketched a parabola on here, right, this right here and this right here are solutions. Okay, where they cross the x-axis. All right, so now the question is, a quadratic function can have at most how many solutions and at least how many solutions? All right, so if I've got a quadratic function that looks kind of like this, and I were to put it on the graph, right now it's going to have two solutions, one here and one here. Right? If I were to slide it up, we could slide it all the way up, and would it ever cross the x-axis? And the answer would be no. It would never cross this x-axis right here. Right? But we can also slide it down, and if it just touches the x-axis once, it's going to have one solution. So at most it can have two solutions, and at the least it can have 0 solutions. So you'll come across some quadratics where the parabola that they create will cross twice. You will come across some that will cross 0 times, and like we just said, you'll come across some where it will cross or just touch once, not necessarily even cross. So I'm going to highlight the x-axis on these graphs right here. All right, and then what I want you to do is draw a sketch of each of those. I'm going to give you a second to do that. And if you were a little bit lost, then we'll kind of walk you through how to do this. So I'm going to start with, this will be 2 solutions. So I'll put a 2 next to it. If you did your 2 over here, something, put a 2 next to that one. 2 solutions. There's tons of quadratics that have 2 solutions, right? All right. And then I'm going to circle the solutions. Those are my two solutions. It's where it crosses the x-axis, right? Let's do the next one. The next one will do 0 solutions. 0 solutions. I'm going to do mine going down like this, all right? It's never going to cross. I'm not going to circle anything because it has 0 solutions, all right? And then the last one is going to be one that has 1 solution. And if it has 1 solution, that means that it is going to go down to the line and touch it and come back up. All right, now you've really got to be careful with a situation like this, because sometimes it will cross just over and come just back, and then it would still have 2 solutions. But if it just comes down and touches it and goes back up, it will only have 1. All right, that's something where if I was looking at a graph of it, I would want to make sure that it had the coordinate where y was 0 in the vertex, or I wanted to, I would zoom in to make sure that it was just touching and not going over. Right? So now we're going to do another part of this is just taking you through one of these. All right. Alright, so if you wanted to pause or stop the video right here and maybe try this one on your own, you're more than welcome to do that. But what I want to do is I want to walk you through putting this in your calculator and looking at the different parts to it. So take your calculator, go to New Documents, go to Add a Graph, and then just type that first function in there with the parentheses x plus 3, close parentheses, parentheses, x minus 3, close parentheses, and then hit enter. Alright, and sometimes you can see it just pop right up on your screen, and sometimes you can't. Okay? So let's just go through the first question on your paper. So make sure you have your paper in front of you. Does the parabola open up or down? Alright, if you can't tell if it opens up or down, then you might want to zoom out or change your window a little bit. But it's fairly clear here that this parabola is going to be opening up. So you can put that right on your paper. It opens up. If a parabola opens up, then that means that it has a minimum. So down here, this is the minimum. I always get the question, Mr. Stack, well, isn't there going to be a maximum on this as well? If you look at this, there should be like arrows right here, because this is going to go up forever, and this is going to go up forever. So there isn't going to be a maximum here. There's only going to be a minimum. All right? And then it says, what is the vertex? Now, there's a couple of ways where you can find the vertex. So we talked about yesterday how we go to Menu, Analyze Graph, and in this case we'll do Minimum. Click on the left, click on the right, and our vertex is 0, negative 9. So go ahead and write that down, 0, comma, negative 9. One thing that's kind of interesting about this one is that that is also the y-intercept, because this one x is 0. So you can also copy that down for your y-intercept, 0, comma, negative 9. Now that happens when a parabola or a quadratic graph is symmetrical about the y-axis. That means that I could take and fold it across this y-axis, and it would fold right on top of itself. All right. Now we don't always have that. So your y-intercept is not always going to be your vertex. Right. The next thing we want to do is get a table. So hit Control T, and to get the table, just hit that Control T, and now we can see the vertex if we go to 0. If you go to 0, and this is one thing I want to point out to you. This is what I like to call the sandwich. Alright, we've got negative 9 right here, and it's sandwiched by negative 8 and negative 8. So it's sandwiched by the exact same number. When you have that, then this is your vertex. Alright, now you can't always find that on a table, because sometimes the vertex isn't a whole number. So you got to really be careful to realize that you're not always going to be able to get that on a table. Right? What I want to do right now, though, is I'm going to copy this table down. So I'm going to start at negative 2 for x, and negative 5. Negative 1 is negative 8. 0 is negative 9. 1 is negative 8, and 2 is negative 5. Now we're going to talk about the zeros or solutions or x-intercepts for this. There's a couple of ways that you can find those. You can look on here and go, alright, can I see where y or x, where y is 0, because that's where my x-intercepts are. And I see one right here, 3, 0, 3, 0. Go ahead and write that down where it says what are the x-intercepts. That's one of them. If you look at the graph though, 3, 0 is going to be right here, and we're going to have another one over here. So let's go up, and because this is going to be in the negative, so let's go up, and oh, look at that, we found the other one. It is negative 3, 0. Alright, now the last thing that I want to do, we're going to take the table off, Control T, is show you that you can find the intercepts without using the table. And this is especially helpful when you are dealing with x-intercepts or solutions or zeros. We'll use all three of those words all the time. You can find those when they're not whole numbers, alright? Or when the y value, when the y value is not a whole number, alright? I'm sorry, when the x value is not a whole number, the y value is going to be 0. Right, so we're going to go to Menu, Analyze Graph, and the first option there is 0. Now, one thing that I like to do is I like to click in the middle, because then I don't have to do it quite as much. I can click in the middle, and then I can pull it to the left, and if you notice here it says negative 3, 0 down here, and then if I don't click, but I pull it to the right, then it will show me the other one of 3, 0. Now, if I do click here and say, alright, I've got this one, right? Then I've just got to do another one over here. It's not a huge deal, it just saves you a little bit of time. So Menu, Analyze Graph, 0 again, and then you got to click on each side of it if you want it to actually show up and stay there. Alright, so then I've got my two solutions right there. So that is, I'm walking you through one problem on here. Go ahead and work on the rest on your own.